So now I really have the pleasure to introduce to you Alexander Witteveen. So he's a Vice President Technology at Elsevier, and today he's going to give us a beautiful talk, which is Paint Me Orange, World-Class Technologist Onboarding at Scale. So without further ado, Alexander, I will just give you the floor and let's enjoy your talk.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. So today, right, as already said, I got a presentation for you around onboarding new joiners as a solid foundation for your live performing squads, right? To increase engagement and accelerating your enterprise DevOps pivot, and in this case, at a FTSE 100 business. So we live in an age where software is basically eating the world, right? You've heard that probably before. And I think the winners in the industry will be companies that manage, right, and there it goes, to attract and retain top engineering talent. So we'll take you on a journey around the inception, creation, challenges, and global scaling of Elsevier's technology onboarding program called Paint Me Orange. Do a short introduction about myself and who I am. So I'm Alexander Witteveen. I'll be the host for you for this session. Been working at Elsevier since 2018. What is Elsevier, you might think, right? Not everybody knows what that company is. So we're a global leader in information and analytics, and we basically help researchers and healthcare professionals advance science and improve healthcare outcomes for the benefit of society. That's it in a nutshell. It's a pretty big one. Quite a responsibility, and I consider it also a good spend on my working day. My contribution, right, to the business is to leverage state-of-the-art engineering practices and to help Elsevier navigate disruption and provide our customers with the best solutions and our products possible. So when I started my journey here, basically I was accountable for building the Amsterdam Technology Hub, was one of our strategic enablers, and we basically went through hypergrowth, right? Scaling from 32 to 150 people in barely 18 months time. Well, that's quite a challenge. So for those that have done scaling in the room before, envision this is basically running a fast iterating hypergrowth scale up within a well-respected and well-established FTSE 100 business, right? So it's like riding a bull in a china shop. Well, something like that, right? I do like a challenge. So here it is, explained to you in a little bit more detail. These are the products that I'm currently managing. So maybe some of those you are familiar with. Like Scopus could be one of them. Engineering Village could be one of them. And then next to that, horizontally through the portfolio, I do two things: take accountability for quality engineering, and then TechX. And this presentation is part of technology excellence. So enough with the intro. Let's start with some housekeeping. Right. So I got 35 minutes on the journey, on the onboarding journey, and then 5 minutes basically for questions. So please post the questions in the chat so that we can go through these as much as possible at the end of the session. Right. I'm confident that hopefully I will be able to cover some of your questions during the onboarding journey. So now let me take you on a data-driven journey where I will give you some insights into how a small group in Elsevier Technology created, runs, and continuously improves our technology onboarding program called Paint Me Orange. And that's a program that has been named a key enabler during COVID, and both appraised by senior managers, facilitators, and of course our new joiners that enter our business. So let's kick off with a little trailer video to set the scene and also get you excited on the journey that we're about to go into. Here we go. So that's basically it in a nutshell. You can also drop off now or let me explain the journey on how we actually got there and what you saw in the video. It's up to you. So As with all good research papers, right? We're in the academic field, or at least I'm operating in the academic field. Let's just start with the end in mind, right? So I'm going to give you basically the takeaway at the beginning, right? So the summary of this experiment that we've done. So today, 400 people went through this program, right? So yes, it's battle tested, and it's not only a theoretical concept that I'm going to present to you. It's something that within our company, it actually works, which is great, right? From an engineering standpoint. So a PMO Orange, or short for a PMO, has a clear objective and supporting key results to focus its efforts on rapidly facilitating continuous improvement, right? And you see it on the screen. So the objective for PMO Orange is simple as it is straightforward. Get technology new joiners connected, right? Remember, we're matrixed and global, as I said before, up to speed. Well, in the big business, time is money, and eNPS, and productive as quickly as possible, right? And that's more the employee engagement bit, right? So those are actually incorporated into what you see here. If you go a little bit down, we can also measure ourselves, right? So here you see the scores, right? So they're basically higher than the rest of the organization, which proves that this program produces an uplift, right? So they're significantly higher for both engagement, net promoter score, and in the end, if you calculate everything back, the program saves about 25 FTEs in waste, right? 12 months rolling forward. So, right? So one can just only imagine what happens when you reinvest this time into actually driving customer outcomes, because that's basically time that you get back that normally we would waste. So that's setting the scene. We go a little bit into a poll to gauge the room. So what is your experience basically currently in the company or previously with onboarding? Like as a technologist, how were you onboarded? What was your experience? On the scale from 1 to 10, like 1 is extremely poor and 10 was incredibly good. So please post a scale in the chat and maybe a one-liner to describe your feeling on how that actually was. It gives me a little bit of input into how well received that was in the past and what the knowledge is in the room. I can custom tailor the presentation towards that. So that's what I'll use it for. Put it in the chat. I can't see the chat, by the way, so I'm I'm leaning on now.
Yeah, so I will be voicing over the things that you put in the chat. So just please, okay, so we have a round 3. Usually it's more of a, there you go, a computer for you and a project to work on. Then we have a 2, left my own devices pretty much. Then we have an 8, but warning, I'm a manager, he says.
Nice. Nice protective answer.
We have 6 here. Technology setup has been the worst part. Okay. A 3. Go ahead and meet some new colleagues.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like,
okay. Okay, good. Well, thanks. That gives me definitely an impression. So you will definitely get something out of this because this is not unique, right? Not in the company that you're currently working on. We also had responses like these. And I will take you through the journey of what we've done to eradicate stuff like this, right? Because you can actually get rid of it if you do it properly. So hang in there. I'm going to give you some cool stuff to think about. Here we go. So give you a little bit of context, right? So PMO Orange is on the left, right? So when accelerating an enterprise DevOps pivot, most tend to have a top-down approach, right? In well, the majority of the companies, right? So the squads and the existing org structures, the behaviors, and working on basically getting these fit for change, right? That's normally how those change programs tend to work. I mean, don't get me wrong, that is the work that needs to be done. But what is often overlooked is leveraging key ceremonies like onboarding, right? It's just one of them, right? To massively accelerate your pivot going forward. So I find this interesting as your pivot is never done, right? So you better set up a structure that supports your journey going forward. And onboarding is something that you will do continuously, right? With getting new people into the business. So you better do that the right way so that you can continuously accelerate that. So what we're doing is embedding our organization values, which are ever evolving, ways of working, which are ever evolving, and other items we value into a program that provides a consistent experience of uploading these into all the new joiners that enter the business, right? So that program continuously updates itself based on learnings and the company's journey, right? So it's a self-sustainable one. So instead of fixing your structure and behaviors and tech debt top down, right? On day 2, we now start with this from day 1, right? And that's what this program actually does, right? It prevents it from happening downstream. So that's quite different than only leveraging the top down one. So each month for us, a new wave of 20 to 30 FTEs basically enter our company, right? Locked and loaded, creating a critical mass for change that accelerates our DevOps pivot at enterprise on a global scale. This is part of a bigger endeavor, and I won't go into those ones, right? So we call this the Academy within our group, and that contains Pay Me Orange, boot camping, and gravity tracks, right? So you see those actually on the screen. Won't go into those, tough luck. We're only going to do the first one, right? So we're only going to go into the Pay Me Orange onboarding piece. So, right, so when you dig a little bit deeper, there's way more research behind onboarding, right? So this is not something new, at least that I was aware of before. So as stated in the opening slide, software is eating the world, but software is mostly created by humans, still, mostly, right? You better do your best to find and retain the best talent and have the best shot actually at creating the best software possible for your customer. Right? Investing in proper onboarding improves retention by 82%, as you see on the slide, and also improves productivity by over 70%, right? And this is according to Glassdoor, which has quite a data pool to do these analysis on. So that's quite impressive, actually, if you look at it. And it's often overlooked, as we already saw from the poll, right? So not everybody focuses on that. So going through this one, so that all sounds great, right? So the research is pretty solid, but first thing is figuring out if this actually drives value. So maybe you have already got a pretty decent setup going. Well, looking at the polls, not everybody has, but it's worth investigating if more can be done. So the first step is validating your onboarding approach to define what possible structure and or actions could be followed, right? So a question that I've asked and that you could actually ask within your organization is, was my onboarding experience unique? Was it geography based? Was it a business unit thing? Like, was it isolated? Was it an ad hoc experience? Like, what actually was it? That basically boils down into, number one, a wish. We have whole loads of wishes, right? But do we want to improve this? Although a wish is quite different than a need, right? So when I joined Elsevier, my personal onboarding experience was what you could expect from a highly matrix company. And I already saw, again, some of those in the poll. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody did their best. Get me up to speed, all right? Get your computer, get your online courses, but I personally felt that the experience was just lacking structure, engagement, and clarity. And next to this, the time to get myself up to speed could be more effectively organized. And when I went through this in my early days at Elsevier, my engineering mindset was continuously telling me, automate this, automate, automate, automate. You can automate the crap out of this, which you should. But we didn't do it, right? Because it never had this specific focus. So clearly identify the wish at this stage, then there's the need, right? Is there a data-proven need to improve this? And also, what will be the impact, right, of doing nothing? And what's going to be the cost of this investment, right? In a bigger corporate, these are the questions that you need to answer. What is our ambition level, right? Do we actually want this? That's also a question that needs to be answered. And then the last one, measure it. So how are you actually going to measure this going forward? So what should be the objective? You already saw that slide, right? What should the objective and key results of good onboarding look like within your own environment? So you need to figure that out, what that looks like based on your organizational constraints. So when I went through the above and facing hypergrowth, as I explained in the introduction, and scaling the Amsterdam Tech Hub, I knew that this was already worth the effort for building the Tech Hub. Right? But that's only a small part of the puzzle in a big FTSE 100 company. So, but what was the larger group? Like, what was the experience for 2,000 people? Because we have 2,000 people in technology. What was their experience with their onboarding? So let's continue that journey, right? And let's explore what being data-driven is and what data can actually answer the second one. And that is the need, the want, and the success with factual data points. So here we go. So the need, get some data, right? That's the first thing. So what we did within our group is we basically did an A/B test. So comparing existing onboarding and a proof of concept pre-Pay Me Orange onboarding, right? To get the data points around the needs, factual data points, right? Not theoretical ones. There we go. And this is stuff that we saw. So here you see qualitative feedback coming from the existing onboarding experience. Right? Here's one of them. And it's actually quite sad to read, right? So I already saw these actually come back into the poll, and we had similar ones like these, right? So you see one here. So people waiting, a hiring manager not showing up, or meetings not being aligned, the kit was not ready, in-person or online training. So that basically backed my hypothesis on what I saw before. But apparently, this is not an ad hoc thing. So this was happening more frequently, also in other sites, right? So again, opening statement, people write software, software is eating the world. You need people to do that. So onboarding is pretty crucial if you set people up for success from the get-go. So here we go. This is the second one, right? So this is the second one from the A/B test. So this is the pre-POC Pay Me Orange group. This was the group that actually went through the experience, right? So we've chosen the approach to already leverage the matrix here. So incorporate multiple data points. What you see here is already a cross-cut through technology, a cohort consistent out of multiple locations, multiple tracks, and multiple seniority levels, right? So we're already doing a lot of checks to see if it's related to any of these, right? We can already get this from one single engagement. If you go further on, this is the feedback that we saw coming from the Pay Me Orange group. So it's much better than the pre-existing ones, where new joiners, for example, mentioning it was a great experience. Some actually said it was the best experience they had in their whole professional journey, stuff like that, right? So that's really, I say, encouraging to build further on the need. But this does not still prove the need, right? So this is data, it's qualitative data, but it's not the quantitative data that you also need to plot going forward. So let's see some numbers, right? So this is all great, it sounds good. What does it look like? So now look at the difference coming from the two groups. Right? On the left, you see the existing one, and on the right, you see the Pay Me Orange group. So interestingly, the pre-existing onboarding experience is not unique, right? And it's also not location-based, and it's also not seniority level or track-based. But it's happening throughout technology and impacting a much wider group than assumed before. So this was not only scaling the tech up, it's 2,000 people large globally. Right? So that's a different impact. So basically, again, the 5 items: wish, need, want, measure success. Right? This slide basically proves for us, and I'll show it to you here, the need and what gain can be had based on the actual A/B experiment. Right? So the wish we identified already. The wish is there. That's a yes, right? We want to improve this. The need, we've now proven it by showing these, right? So 41% improvement on the experience overall, a big uplift in the eNPS. The kit actually delivered on time, right? People actually got the laptop to work with, right? And then actually a small calculation to calculate the gain back into salary, right? You can actually do a calculation of how much money will you save actually by doing this, which is just a financial calculation. But it shows that there is also a monetizable value in doing the work like this. If you go into this one, so how can you then actually do a mini financial business case? You can prove it something like this, right? So you have generic data points that come from the industry. We're probably all familiar with these. You've got your attrition average, you've got your annual salary from a sunk cost perspective, and you've got your productivity loss, right? And this one is actually pretty, conservative, right? It's a conservative number, because you saw the Glassdoor one that was way higher, and we said, well, let's go with 10% for now. Let's see what comes out if you do that. If you take in your specific ones from your company, right? So we have about 250 to 300 new starters each year, and about 100 to 200 coming from mergers and acquisitions, right? In total, for us, it looks like this, right? Each year that we basically go through when we were growing pretty rapidly. Well, if you do the math, you can do that yourself. I'm not going to do that for you. But you can do the math in your own company to see what actually comes out. And I can guarantee you that that figure is going to be quite substantial, right? So don't be afraid to do it. But I mean, it's probably going to be surprising there when you do the math. So for me, this proved, yes, there is scale that needs to be taken into account when building this program for the Amsterdam Tech Hub, because it's a global thing. It's not only a location thing, right? So when we go to this one, I need to skip my own slides here. You've got your questions basically now answered. So the last one on the list is measure it, right? So that's the last piece that we need to cover. So how do you then actually measure it, and what should be the objective and good key results of onboarding? Well, here you basically have it, right? So the first one that we have is basically the eNPS, which should be equal or higher than a plus 65. That was based on our initial experiment. That's what we're going to run with on an average from the group. The other one is the engagement piece, right? And that should be equal or greater than an 8.0. All data points coming from our A/B testing. So then we set the scene. We have the objective, we have the key results that we're trying to target, we have the scale, and then actually now it goes into how did we then pull it off within our company. So this is what it basically looks like. So I want to tell you more about the operating model. This is how we run it within our group. So this is the operating model. It's a squad-based model that people are probably well familiar with, and we have multiple locations across the globe. These are the bigger tech hubs that we leverage, where a large portion of our talent is actually located near or even around. So I go further. These were the main items that for us were highly important, right? So for us, it begins each month. Right, so that's where we basically run a cohort each month. So align starting dates with talent acquisition to ensure that most new joiners start their Elsevier career with pay-me-earns and not be here for 2 months and then go through onboarding. Right, so you need to align those dates upfront. Otherwise, you're going to go out of sync, right, with all kinds of issues. I can guarantee you that. So okay, the second one is alternate between demographics, right? So that's the second one, because we work globally, so we need to take time zones into account, regions, stuff like that. That's pretty challenging to do, but solvable. Third one is also it's global, right? So I show you a slide later on where we actually explain how that actually works within our group. So it's a global experience for us, right? We onboard people globally. Deliver a virtual cohort experience, right? Connecting new joiners in virtual cohorts, connecting them instantly to 20 to 30 new starters around the business. That was also quite new because everybody in the past was individually on board. So you also connect them through a Slack group, you get way better engagement, and people then from day one already know other people in the company that are spread throughout the globe, right? Which is a pretty nice experience to have. If you go one level deeper, you also see about 20 to 30 new joiners each month. Right, that's what we go through. We cover all the tech tracks that we have within the company, and we have a curriculum that is delivered through VC by multiple facilitators across technology. Each cohort is hosted by a community enabler, and then communication, planning, and improvements are done through a single FTE coordinator. Right, so it's handled by a single person. The group surveys itself each month to ensure continuous improvements. The program actually acts as a collective memory. I will go into that a little bit later. And we're basically retaining the latest updates on the core values and the processes, right? Continuous improvements, that's actually guaranteed in the program and how we run it. And the sessions are also made available for offline viewing, although we don't really recommend that because, right, it lacks the experience that we're looking for. But sometimes you just need to give in. Right? It does not always work for people that have other start dates, for example. The material is available for everybody to use. We go to this one, right? So remember I mentioned the lean setup a couple of slides back. Here you can see basically lean at work. A lot of text, don't read it. I'll take you through it really quick. Each month, pay-me-earns runs at least once, right? To onboard new joiners as mergers and acquisitions, right? We all consider those new joiners to technology. So each month a retrospective takes place. We ensure that for the following iterations, those iterations get the improvements seen from the previous one, right? So that's the continuous improvement cycle actually at work. In the background, the pay-me-earns team works on resolving structural impediments, like increasing the facilitator pool, content quality, pre-boarding integration, mergers and acquisitions, aligning all those items. That's what the group actually does in the background. Nobody sees that, but that's what the group actually takes into account. So it's basically an autonomous team with next to zero overhead. As we answer the questions up front, like all good engineers tend to do, the process and structure was built for scale, right? And since inception, as we already went through before, the manual overhead was either not accepted, or we pushed back on the matrix, was eliminated, or we just automated it through Workday or other tools, right? We didn't accept manual labor because we wanted to stay lean and also an agile way of executing on. Here you see quickly the inception piece. A couple of months later, you already see the pivot, right? So we actually started to pivot to the London and the Amsterdam one. Then actually we went, well, basically global through VC due to COVID, right? It really helped accelerate the program in a weird way. But for us, it worked wonders to pivot the whole concept through virtual. Then actually a month later, we already went global, right? So it went really fast. It was scheduled for, I think, 3 or 4 months later. But that was already the following month. And then you'll see the content expansion coming in. The first M&A already hit us in July, which wasn't expected for 2020, but what the heck, right? So throw it in, we'll make it work. Then China came in, so we built a tech hub there. Remember, right, it's a matrix, it's a big organization, right? Sometimes you just need to roll with the punches. This was one of them. So we've also managed to onboard all the people based in Shanghai in a good way. Tech Associates, we did parallel runs because we also have a Tech Associates program. So we actually did a dual run, new joiners and Tech Associates. And now we're working on a contents version 2. Right? So this program continuously evolves itself and makes itself better on past experiences. If I move on to the journey map, I'm going to take you through this one pretty quickly, is each month we run, and the journey, what the new joiners are going through looks like this, right? So first one is welcome to Relics. We explain what the company is like, the structure. We're part of the Relics group, multiple businesses there. Second one, the tech desk one, right? We actually get your kit operational, your passwords, all the tools that we use, it's all the basics that you need, right? This is your basic toolbox. That some companies tend to forget. They just give you a laptop and then, oh yeah, you need to log into certain tools, you need to get access to certain systems. That's what we already do in that session and get all that crud out the way. Right? That's what that session is primarily for. The ISDP one, so information security and data protection, where we get you updated on our security policies, how we integrate it within our framework and within our code, and items like those. Unconscious bias, people have unconscious bias, right? Remember that. We value that within the company, so we actually make you aware of that, right? That you have bias in the way that you do things, so you need to be aware going forward of those items. Then next one is our strategy, customers, and solutions. Right, you already see that there. We actually explain what strategy do we have, which customers do you actually serve, what do you do your work for, and what products do we have, and what do those products actually do? Because again, we're a big company, we're global, we have about 40 to 50 products, so you should have insight into what groups do and what products we build. Right? You need to be more engaged with the business than only focusing on your own small niche project. Right? This is a global business. And the second one is the tech strategy and ways of working, right? Again, we go through the technology strategy, how it supports your customer, how do we value your work, what does your work actually do, how do we work together, items like those. Accessibility, people with disabilities, right? Visual impairments, audible impairments, we make you aware of that, right? That we build products that are accessible for the broader group. Not only people that have none of those, right? So that's actually a value that we have within the company. So we incorporate that. Architecture, again, big company, you need to understand, in this case, what our unified reference architecture looks like, how do systems integrate with that. You need to be aware of the larger picture. And these sessions are also to give you a stage to ask questions or to have connection points so that you can hook up with people to get more information about certain topics, right? And then we're here, which is self-improvement and career development, right? Your own, making sure that you have a personal development plan in place, that you drive your manager to actually get those items in there. This is for yourself, to ensure that you get a good learning path from actually day one. And then the next 100 days, what to expect, which is more of an HR-focused topic. And then actually that's the end of the journey. So then you're painted orange and you're actually there and doing your part in helping Elsevier achieve its mission. So that's, in high-level overview, what that program looks like. This is another representation. I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but this is the curriculum of how we structured it, right? So 5 days, 5 different, basically, focus areas, and then we have the modules underneath those on how we run these. And these flex continuously, right? Again, global, we got time zones, stuff that we need to work with. So usually you have a window of opportunity, and then we actually plan all those modules based upon where we're going to host the next cohort. Staying lean, right? Again, so cohort each month, global scale, 400 people taking through. So that must be quite some overhead. Well, as I said, it wasn't, and I think it isn't. But this is what it looks like. So we have one coordinator. Oh, let me click it. There we go. We have one coordinator that plans each cohort, ensures the pre-boarding materials sent out, modules are scheduled, facilitators are available and lined up. She does all the heavy lifting to ensure that the structure and the program is there. And she also works on the modules to improve the process, workflow, and content, right? So that's Megan. We also have Shraddha. She is our community enabler, and she also acts as the main host, right? So she's your host that will take you through all the modules, right? She guides you through the whole journey that you saw before. She works also on the contents, and she also facilitates certain modules, right? And she implements structural improvements around the engagement piece and the contents. And I'm also here right? So I'm here to help structure the program in a good way, making sure that it aligns to the bigger processes in the company that we have, get it linked up to mergers and acquisitions, items like those, right? And make sure that the program focuses on its OKRs, right? So their objective and key results, and making sure that the work that we do actually drives value, right? And that we automate, that we don't do manual labor and all that stuff, right? So I'm more the guardian of that. And this is the secret sauce, right? A committed, diverse, and engaged team of facilitators cross technology that actually make this program work in the way that it currently is working, right? And this is what that actually looks like. There you go. So, meet our facilitator group, right? So in the first 4 months, actually, when we done this program, we basically bootstrapped it. And it was, well, in that case, it was myself, it was Shrada, our community enabler, it was Megan from a coordinator perspective, the unconscious buyer team, and the tech test that you saw on the journey, and our senior HR business partner. So that's how we rolled for 4 months, right? We did that all by ourselves, doing all the modules and program, right? That's where you need to have a little bit of grit. You need to stay at it. And then when people saw the results, you actually had facilitators come to us saying, well, could I maybe be part of this journey? Because it really sounds good. You're delivering great value to our new starters. Or I've been through it myself, your onboarding journey. I would like to give back to the broader group. So that group actually grew pretty quick to about 20 plus engaged senior leaders that basically contribute out of their own drive and interest. So I'm not telling people to join, right? They join out of their own self-interest. A group that is a mirror reflection on how we onboard new joiners, multiple levels, tracks, locations, cross business units, different backgrounds, and truly global, right? Inclusion at its best, I might say. So it's a community of true professionals that care for the employees' well-being and are on top of their game from their expertise standpoint and want to give the new joiners the best experience possible. And then you thought that this is the only, there is even more, right? Look at that. There's another slide of people from our pool that make this program happen, right? It's a big group, which I'm pretty proud of. We also leverage tools, right? Again, the automate bit that I've shared with you before. We leverage Slack, for example, right? So that statement at the beginning, one example is a bot like these, where when people join the company, they actually get the form, they can fill in all their details, and they get posted in the Slack channel. Though people can actively introduce themselves into the group where all the pre-joiners were already joined before. Right? So you already joined a big cohort. It's a pretty nifty setup. And it's also fully automated, right? So there's not a lot of overhead to actually get this done in the right way. And you directly see engagement from people in that Slack channel, helping other new joiners to get on board. It's a good tool to use. Measure success, that's the last part of the journey, right? We're almost there. This is what it looks like. So here are a couple of snippets that actually came from the new joiners and hiring managers that have shared with us. So I won't go through the details, right? You can read that later on when this material gets distributed. But right, high level, it's a key enabler during COVID times in engaging our new joiners. People truly valuing the insights like the unconscious bias training that I've mentioned before, and also the accessibility training, right? Because usually that is quite forgotten when you join a new company, or it's on the back burner somewhere, or in an online course that you need to follow. And also even past mergers and acquisitions that we have in the company, and some actually for 3 to 5 years stated that they learned a great deal around the organization and technologies and definitely feel more connected to the business, right, than they've ever been before, and they've already been here for a couple of years. So in general, what people value is the personal style and how the program is delivered, even through VC, and they value the passion and time that senior leaders take to invest, right, in them as new joiners, which I think is quite unique. By having that senior leadership team in the group, you also get a vast amount of knowledge when you answer questions in that group, right? So that usually most of them actually get answered, right, at that point in time. So Pay Me Orange for us reflects the inclusive and diverse nature of our company, and I think the cohort meets a wide range of presenters from different backgrounds, countries, and cultures, and native languages. Right? It truly reflects the company that we are. So here you see a couple of them more. And then we're nearing the end of the presentation. So how do we know that this is world-class? Right. So remember, our stated ambition was a plus 65 in eNPS. Well, we've actually managed to get that. And also the engagement, right? So the engagement level at that point in time was an 8.5. So that's higher than we've ever dreamt of, because those were OKRs, right? So these were more moonshots and roof shots that we were targeting. So we were really happy with seeing how the program evolves. So we validate this actually through Office 5, right? Here you go. So we validate through Office 5, and basically getting from that is we know that for us, with the group that we measure out, it's in the 90th percentile. If you look at Office 5 compares that with other companies, and we actually know from an eNPS and engagement perspective, it's in the 90th percentile, which is pretty high, right? So that means 90% better engagement score than other companies, right, across the world. So proven a significant a significant uplift. You already see the numbers that I've shown you before, and is highly valued also by our tech VPs and flagged as the key enabler, as I shared before. So we measure this. Each cohort that goes through our program gets a separate group. We measure how that group is actually doing from an engagement and eNPS perspective. And these are more the overall results. Well, we can also aggregate them into one, and then we see what Pay Me Orange did as a whole. So cohort and total program, and we can even mix and match in between, like the last 3 months, or the last month, or the last 6 months, or the last year, and what were the common trends. So we get a lot of data out of this system on how to improve the program, and we also do that. Again, we survey at the end of each cohort, right? So each month we're going to get feedback around their current experience, how it's going, what's working, what's not working, stuff that we need to change, and stuff that we need to improve on. And this is what that actually looks like, right? So we take our customer at the heart of everything of what we do. Here you see a couple of snippets coming back from the group that went through the news. And that brings us to the end of our journey. Right? So I've shown you this slide before. So kicked off with this one. So I've taken you through that inception, right, to creation, to execution of the technology onboarding within Elsevier Technology. And then to wrap it all up, so we've stated 4 questions, right? The wish, the need, the want, and then also the success, right? So hope that you are actually inspired and equipped now to go into your own organization and also determine if there's an opportunity within your org in creating a solid onboarding program like Pay Me Orange in order to help create elite teams that will accelerate also your enterprise DevOps pivot going forward. And that is where I'll stop and answer any questions that there might be.
We have a request actually from the chat from Martin Schuten. He's asking if it's possible to magnify your 5-day curriculum because he wants to give it a read.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. You want me to do that now? I can. let me try to do that. Yeah, let me bring it all up. I need to scroll through the slides. Let me do that. I can also help people out later on, right? So I put my email address also on the last slide. So if you have specific questions or you want certain information, just feel free to just send me an email, and I can also send some material to you based on your own needs.
That will be great, and I'll also be sharing your email in the chat, so they can contact you, and also maybe we can show your plan as well, or maybe next year.
Yeah,
that will be doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm trying to skip back to the. There you go. There you go. So that's the current structure. I mean, the structure alternates based on the time. I didn't explain that, but the structure alternates depending on the time zone and also depending on the cohort that's going to join. So for some mergers and acquisitions, certain modules are rephrased or skipped. Right? So it really depends on what the customer is looking for, and then we basically adapt our curriculum going forward each month. So each month it's a little bit different.
That's great.
But this is in general.
So I think we're already on time. I also had some questions myself. I think then, well, what I will do is I will leave your email on the chat, and please, if anyone have some questions, so just reach out to you.
Definitely. More than happy to answer those.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great presentation. I think we all learned so much. Thank you very much.
Happy to do so. Everyone have a great day. Stay safe.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.